You're in the Grooveyard. We're on location in Woodstock, New York, with drummer, percussionist, and music arranger Mr. Gary Burke. Gary, happy holidays.
Well, happy holidays and a Merry Christmas to you all.
What a celebration last night. Rick Danko's birthday did not go unscathed, did it?
No, it was. It's actually turned into a tradition now, where we celebrate Rick's birthday. And another little-known fact is that Rick was actually responsible for putting the band you saw on stage last night together. That was Rick's doing in the very beginning. We we were together about a year before he passed. We recorded about a half an album with him, and then we, after his passing, we culled together a bunch of live tracks and put that first album out. But the band is actually Rick's band.
He had a lot of plans, Gary. I went to Woodstock with him. Chloe and Luke, my children, went, and Justin. We all went up in the RV and met Aaron and the other guys there because it was the Rick Danko band in 99. I'm talking about 99. Levon closed it out in 2009, and we went with them then too, with Lee and everybody.
Yeah.
But Rick passed that December. He died on my birthday, December the 10th.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm so happy to be talking to you, Mr. Burke, the 1970s, I was a disc jockey on a progressive radio station, and wow, did we get a lot of music in 10 years. I mean, I didn't get into the disco. I went around the block a lot of times because, Garth Hudson and those guys were inventing disco and funk and just kept moving on. And, you guys moved right into the 90s, which is very apparent. People don't even know that some of those records exist. And our mission with Professor Louie and the Crowmatix, with The Weight, and with anybody else who has met Rick, Levon, Garth, keep the faith going, right?
Well, there's a lineage here, and we're standing on other people's shoulders. And it is, some people say, well, there's no such thing as the Woodstock sound. But you know what? I've been living up here a long time, and I've seen the musicians come through town and leave. I've seen the musicians that come into town and stay. And culturally and emotionally and spiritually, there is a Woodstock sound. And for better or for worse, we're inheritors of it, maybe progenitors as well, So it makes sense that there's these bands that exist now that have sort of come down an evolutionary chain.
Well, to see the young lady get up there last night and sing It Makes No Difference, I know you guys felt your job is done, and Rick's waiting for you when you get up there. You know that. Good job. Make sure you got what on the way out the door. But the 1970s, not only the Rolling Thunder Revue, Joe Jackson, you were part of that band, a big part of that band. Body and Soul, right? Body and Soul with Joe Jackson. The 1970s, MTV was coming into its inception, changing the way people saw music, the way people listened to music. The band kept going. And I have an interview with Mr. Levon Helm, I think right after The Right Stuff. I said, where's Robbie? I haven't played that interview yet, but I'm going to let you personally listen to it first, okay?
I would love that.
You got it. And I have another one with Rick, I believe in 83, and then 87. One night we were in Georgetown at Dylan's Cafe, and he did 2 shows, and he did Blaze of Glory. And I'm thinking, I knew Joe Jackson in the Blaze of Glory, but he did the other thing that George Jones did,
Yeah.
But Rick singing Blaze of Glory, and he sang Lionel Richie's My Love, for my wife and stuff. Yeah. And here you did Blaze of Glory in the 70s. We're sitting here in 2017. Last night you did Blaze of Glory.
Yes.
What goes around comes around.
Especially if it's good. It stays around, It has a life. It'll outlive us all.
Well, Rick has some CDs that are still available on Woodstock Records.
That's true.
And I also want to make everyone hip to the fact there are 4 band records out that were put out after Jericho. Well, Jericho was the first one. There's a compilation of the Best of the Band, Volume 2, with Randy Chalante, a brother in arms.
Yes.
Randy is on it. You're on it. All the other guys from The Weight, Brian Mitchell, Marty, you guys have kept the band going and flourishing for 40 years, and last night was proof of it when you looked around the room and saw the different generations. And I asked Brian Mitchell this question when The Weight came down to Washington. You've seen generations come and go. You see them bringing their kids up and getting back to the 70s. Right before Rick died, he was going to put a band together. He wanted me to play tambourine. He was going to call it Y2K.
Well, it's they talk about the American Songbook, and there's Cole Porter and people like that. And as we have stuck with this material, it's become readily apparent that the material that came out of the band is part of the American Songbook. And that's, first of all, it's quite a compliment, number one, to the writing itself. And the other thing is that there's something about the staying power, and that's why you saw the different generations there.
Definitely. And as an arranger, I mean, you're walking the walk and talking the talk, because you arrange a lot of songs. You arranged Carnival. Louis was talking about that last night. Yeah. And so many things. And let's not forget or overlook the people that are playing in the Crowmatix. When I first saw the Crowmatix, it was called Levon Helm and the Crowmatix. Yeah. He was sitting on the drums just like you, pounding away, and they were playing so well. They blew away everybody in Northern Virginia. Yeah. I said, well, they're from New York. But John, who has the history with Van Morrison, the Belfast Cowboy, Frank has a great voice. I heard him sing last night. Yeah. And John should be singing some more. He really should.
What's nice about John is he, well, for me, just as a sideman on stage, when he first started singing, he is so soft-spoken. It stunned me how he draws you in, not by his aggression, but by his sort of mildness, and he's got a very sort of soft and velvety voice and things. But the thing that will kill you when you listen to him is his incredible phrasing. He his astuteness as a guitar player and as a musician who plays guitar comes through in his vocals too. And so I agree with you. You should do more of it. Absolutely.
And Miss Marie, she's a ball of dynamite.
Oh man, it just doesn't stop there. It goes on all night long. And the other thing about it is, if you had seen some of the material, say some of the original material that we did like a year ago, she's constantly expanding and improving upon it, which is great. We all love that.
And I do want to say, ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman that we're speaking with today, Mr. Gary Burke, he's the envy of the Rockettes, because he did lead the Radio City Music Hall Orchestra.
That's absolutely right. That's when they had like somewhere between an 80 and 100-piece orchestra there. We do 4 shows a day. The Rockettes, not only the Rockettes, but they had a corps de ballet as well, and it was a trial by fire there. You had to go in, read the show down. There was no rehearsals or anything like that. You just read it down. The book's the size of the Manhattan Yellow Pages, and it was just. I don't think I could do it today, but when you're young and full of spunk, you're immortal.
I think Levon said you continued for Chick Webb. Where he left off.
Yeah.
And that's a rivalry we know that goes between guitar players and drummers too, don't we?
Yeah.
You're in the Grooveyard. Our guest is Gary Burke. Gary, it's 2017. What's ahead?
What's ahead is we will continue. Well, what's ahead is the road. We're on the road. We're on the road all the time. We'll continue to be on the road. And we'll probably die on the road. That's the way it is, because that's where we want to be. We're playing. We got a bunch of records coming out. We're going to start recording a new one. We're promoting the Lost Band Tracks record right at the moment, but we'll usually, when it gets real cold, we get off the road and go in the studio and make an album.
As I said, you've seen many changes. 79 to 80 was the MTV peak. You were right in there, banging on those skins with Joe Jackson. Yeah. You were part of it. Video killed the radio star. I can tell you, 1985, I was on the bus with the band, after the show. This guy comes on, and he says to Levon, y'all were pretty good. You have a video? Levon says, you get the hell off my bus.
And Levon also with drum machines, or actually what I should say, click track. He said, click. I don't like click tracks, and they don't like me.
You and Levon both on Modern Drummer magazine.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yes. Yeah.
Today, when you see the drummers and you hear the music, it's quick, it's fast, It's plastic.
Well, it's a tough time to come up as a young musician. You know, we didn't look at it this way when we were young, but we had really a tremendous amount of opportunities to play because you had to. If you went, you know, first of all, you didn't just play one night somewhere. You play 2 weeks or whatever. You do 6 sets a night, 4 sets a night, whatever it was, you know. But you got to hone your craft, and your craft turned into an art if you were lucky.
Well, it shows. It shows on any video if you punch up YouTube and look at the band. But let's talk a little bit about these lost band tracks. That was a treat because, as we said, the band had a very, very tough road. Robbie didn't go back in. Jimmy Weeder took the reins, and off they went. He wrote some really good songs. River of Honey is on the new one. How come they didn't, any of the living band members didn't play on it?
Didn't play on it?
Did they play on it, or are they not on it?
There were demos, but, you know,
Tell us the story. Everyone's interested.
What the story is that there are existing demos of varying quality, but the real problem is that with the passing of different people, in some cases you are dealing with estates, you're dealing with people who are not in the music business and who think they've hit the lottery, you know. So the licensing, just to get performance releases on stuff is a complete nightmare, you know.
Happened to Springsteen before Born to Run came out.
Well, no kidding. I didn't know that, yeah.
There was a big holdup, and finally he got Born to Run out.
Yeah, but the other interesting thing about the Lost Band tracks is that it's sort of a either forgotten or unknown corner of the band history. You know, there was the Rick Chertoff brought in, or encouraged anyway, Jules Shear to come over and become a part of the band family and as a writer, and he's, needless to say, a tremendous writer.
How'd you find the tapes?
Well, Louie was there for the whole thing. The tapes existed. He knew it. They were sitting on a shelf, and it looked like they were going to sit on a shelf until nobody. I mean, they weren't being used. You know, it was like a little forgotten corner of band history. So the music is good. It came with Jules' blessing. You know, in fact, he sings on one of the tracks with Louie, and its justification is itself. You know, it's music. It's good music.
But on the original, was Garth on it, or Levon on it, or Richard Manuel, or anybody?
Yes and no. Nobody was. It's hard to tell who's exactly doing what, you know, because I mean, they were there. They were definitely there. Louie would know the personnel per track of who was doing it. You know, Garth was there. Levon was there. Randy was there. Jimmy was there. You know, it's hard to say. You know, people were moving around, and they weren't necessarily. They were still like searching out stuff, and I mean, in other words, there wasn't a lot of serious attention paid to anything at that point because they were just going through a bunch of stuff and trying to find out who they were at that point.
And I find it like the Beatles, after they had disbanded and broken up, we got, into the 90s, and there was a lost Beatles song, but of course John was gone. They went in the studio and put it together as best they could. I forget the name of it, The Bird, something about this bird. Yeah. And people went, well, you know, at least it was a Beatles song. So this is kind of similar to that project.
A little bit, you know. I mean, yeah, I know the track you're talking about, and but why not? You know, it's there, it's good. It's for those who know it's interesting.
The other question, will these songs be performed? Will you perform them? Will the Wait perform them? Will Amy perform them?
We'll perform them, for sure. I don't know about anybody else. You know, it's hard to say at this point. They may not even know about it yet, you know.
Well, it's great that we have this, and we should urge people to log on the website. What is the website for Louie and the Crowmatix?
It's woodstockrecords.com.
Woodstockrecords.com. You can pick up Rick's record. You can pick up Jimmy Weeder's work, Randy Chalante, and all the guys that keep the torch burning here in the Catskill Mountains. And you're going to play disc jockey. You're not getting out of here without playing a few tunes. But there was something else that was very important, and I think I'm going to say 50 years. 1969, 2019, we have a celebration to get underway, Gary, and we need to start now. So we're imploring the retail community all up and down the East Coast, $19.69 for a price tag, $69 to get your hair done, ladies, and your nails. And we'll bring you up here in a bus. You can come up and see Woodstock, see the original town. You can meet some of the musicians, come to some of the clubs, eat some of the fine food up here, some of the dining cuisine, and we can all get on the same bus and count down going back to the future. I asked Graham Nash. He tells me we can't do it. Levon closed out 2009. We owe it to him.
Yeah, well, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like around here at that time, for the 50th.
I'm here now. I got an early start. I'm digging in.
Yeah, well, I mean, but, I live here, and it gets pretty crazy. And but it is a world here. I mean, don't you think?
Can we do it? Why can't we do a 50th anniversary countdown and at least present to Michael Lang and Artie and whoever else is left, give them a plaque and thank them for what they did?
Oh, that would be terrific. I think it can be done.
We're on board in Arlington County and Montgomery County, and when I brought on Felix and the Rascals, I said we need to go back to the future. We need to take it back for our culture because we're not going to be around that much longer. And, Wikipedia doesn't always have it right.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it gets a lot right, but if you know the full story, it doesn't.
You do better reading Modern Drummer magazine. Gary, what was it like working for Joe Jackson? And I loved Ellen Foley. I used to play her on my show all the time. I thought she was a superstar. I thought she had Pat Benatar neck and neck.
Yeah.
But, not everybody can fit through the stardom square hole.
Well, she went to the visual side of things and acting, and she had quite a career there. But it was fun while it lasted. We had a great time.
Had a great band, a very tight band.
Yeah, that was a terrific band. Man, I'd love to be in that band again. That was some great players in that. And, it's funny you talk about the that time period and MTV and things like that. And, of course, Joe went on a rant about video. I mean, to this day, if you want to get him going, just start talking about videos and stuff. Of course, he's on the winning side of that now, but he really despised the videos at first.
Should have put him and Neil Young in a band together.
What a combo.
It would have been good.
Yeah.
What about Frank? What about John? What are they up to?
Are you talking about Frank Campbell and John Platania? Well, Frank is the rock solid core of the Crowmatix. His bass playing, he is completely accommodated my playing. I mean, he is, which is astounding, really. I mean, it's almost like egoless. He totally has wrapped himself around my style of playing. And we don't even think about it.
I want to interject, and while this is going on, you guys have been up here for quite a while doing this, Van Morrison pulls him out and brings him back to do some work.
Every once in a while, I mean, that's the thing. John's relationship with Van is one of almost like brothers, more than anything else. And so periodically he'll go over and do something and hang out, but then eventually things happen and he comes back.
Tell us about Rolling Thunder Revue. There were a couple of drummers. One was a friend of Link Ray's and a friend of Howie's. What was the guy's name?
Luther Ricks?
Stoner was the bass player, right? Rob Stoner. Howie White.
Howie Wyeth. Oh, Howie. A funny story about that. I mean, Howie has passed on, but when I was asked to step into Rolling Thunder after the tour had already begun. The original drummer was Luther Ricks with Howie Wyeth. But Luther thought the tour was over. He went to Europe with Leonard Cohen. And then all of a sudden, probably Bobby Newirth got the idea that, this is too much fun, let's keep it going. So all of a sudden, there was one of the drum chairs were vacant, and they came looking for people, and they eventually wound up with me, So, but I was really, really concerned because I thought, I never saw I really didn't know too much about it, actually, when I was approached. And I had this, audition with Rob Stoner, But the thing about it was that I play left-handed. There's not too many drummers who play left-handed. I play left-handed. I set up left-handed. There's a lot of drummers who are left-handed but play right-handed, but that's a whole other story. Anyway, I was very concerned, and I thought once they found out I was going to be left-handed, they would fire me, because to do the changeover on stage, so I convinced them. I said, it would be really good to put a second set of drums up on stage, and maybe we could do some double drum things and so on and so forth. I show up for the first rehearsal in Florida, and I walk in, and there's 2 drum sets, and they're both left-handed. I'm thinking, I didn't know Howie Wyeth played left-handed too. So all that fear that was in me, it was just really funny. Anyway, we had a great time. 2 left-handed drummers. Where are you going to see that?
Jimi Hendrix isn't coming back, so...
No.
Left-handed, you're a genius, no doubt about it. And you were picked. Look at Levon. You, Randy, you're all on the same page.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
All of you.
Yeah.
Why don't you play something from the live Rolling Thunder show? What was one of the favorite tunes that you loved to pound those skins? Anyone you want.
We did a version of Tangled Up in Blue.
Okay.
At the when we did the Colorado show with the Hard Rain show.
Okay,
Do you
we'll find it.
Rain?
Yeah, I got Hard Rain. We'll put that. Why don't you set it up, Gary? Hi, this is Gary Burke from formerly from the Rolling Thunder Revue.
What, you want me to do this ID here?
Well, just set up a song, play Tangled Up in Blue.
Okay. Well, this is this hopefully will be one of the. There we go. Hi. This is Gary Burke. This is Gary Burke, formerly with the Rolling Thunder Revue. You're in the Grooveyard with Tom Grooms. And we're going to play a little bit of Rolling Thunder Revue live. This is going to be Tangled Up in Blue from the Hard Rain album.
You're in the Grooveyard. We're with Gary Burke, formerly with the Rolling Thunder Revue, and Joe Jackson now with Professor Louie and the Crowmatix. We're here in Woodstock, New York, counting down to 2018. Here we are. 2017 went by quick, didn't it?
It went, it's gone. I can't believe it. I was just getting ready to accommodate it, and it's already gone.
I was still counting down the people we lost in 16. Cohen, Prince. I mean, it just goes on and on. Leon Russell.
Yeah.
And I can't keep up. But unfortunately, I was telling Colin from the Zombies when Graham Parker did Cream acoustically a few months ago. It was awesome. And you worked with Graham Parker and you worked with Brinsley.
Yeah,
Two top-notch characters.
Yeah. Oh, Graham is great. Unbelievable. We had some terrific times.
Squeezing out those sparks, right?
Yeah.
You're in the Grooveyard. We're with Gary Burke. Gary's getting ready to split. And as I said last night, Rick Danko's birthday was celebrated. Everyone in attendance had a great, great show. And you did all the band songs. And as I mentioned, I was really impressed with Frank singing, and I was really impressed with John singing, because I don't hear him sing that much. And you sit behind the drum kit just like Levon did. He used to tell me stories that he would be able to, and I imagine in the end when he lost his voice, he took in a lot, like a sponge, I'm sure. But he communicated with you because you're a drummer, and drummers communicate by sound. And I always found that amazing. I had the privilege of interviewing Mousy Thompson, James Brown's drummer. I said, how'd you get in the band? He said, they found me. He said, Mr. Brown was behind closed doors at the time. I said, so James, I want to tell you, Mousy, didn't only do time, but he kept time. He could have played the drums himself. He said, you're right. James was also a drummer.
He was. Yes, he was. He was. Yes.
What is it about you drummers?
I don't know. But, oddly, we drummers don't get a chance to be with other drummers because there's only one drummer usually in the band. Interestingly enough, Levon and I got to do some double drum work with on Guy Davis, and we did the Conan show with double drums, and it was a great night. It was great to do that, and we got a nice picture backstage with the 3 drummers, with Conan's drummer, and myself and Levon, and we called it Murderers Row. So it was a wonderful night. But playing with him was great. I don't know what to say except he's like a poet, like when he plays. It just comes right across. It's wonderful.
I saw Graham a few months ago. I told him we'll see him at Woodstock in 2019, even though he didn't think we can do it. And I thanked him for playing at Levon's that night. I said Levon felt it, and he said, we love Levon.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, would you like to add anything about 2018?
2018, look for the new Crowmatix record. Not sure what it's going to be yet. Look for the Lost Band tracks.
Any one of those lost tracks that surprised you?
The way they came out surprised me, yeah. The River of Honey is, I don't know why that isn't a number one song right now. You know what I mean? No matter who does it, it's just a tremendous song. We do Baby Don't You Cry No More live now. We didn't do it last night. I'm actually working on a horn arrangement right now for tomorrow night. We may do it tomorrow night. And what was the last track on there? The last track, something Ride.
There was something to Tennessee.
No, Tennessee. Well, you can look it up. Do you have it here?
I don't.
Okay. The last track, John Platania's guitar playing, will blow your mind apart. It's just, this guy just surprises me all the time, what comes out of him, He's not rehashing old licks, that's for sure.
One last thing here.
You got to check that out.
Oh, definitely. We're going to put that on. Here we go. You're in the Grooveyard. Our guest is drummer Gary Burke. Gary, a cultural significance as we get ready for Black History Month in February. About drumming, it was the way a culture communicated. They lost everything. Slavery proved that. But the sound of the drum kept them alive, kept their torch burning, brought them to a new world. Thank God they did Baby Don't You Do It.
Art Blakey was the guy that he didn't know it, but he's the guy who raised me as a kid. Art Blakey.
And the Jazz Messengers?
Yeah, and the Jazz Messengers, yeah. And his drumming is exactly what you're talking about right now. Everything that you just said culturally is inside his drumming. And the last record he did was with Mac Revenack, Believe It or Not. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And he also sings on it too.
Dr. John should be president of the United States. I did nominate Felix Cavalieri when he played with his Rascals a couple weeks ago in Rockville. I said, if he takes his hat off, I'm throwing it in the ring.
Yeah. Well, Dr. John, there's some... and Dr. John lived around here for a while too. There's some great stories with him. But there's the picture of Dr. John walking into the studio with Art, and Art is like he's got to be close to 90 at this point, and he's almost carrying him into the studio. It's so loving. It's unbelievable.
Listen, you guys had champion Jack Dupree banging it out on a band record in the 90s before he went. You gave him the best life he ever had. Because can you imagine what that feels like to be called up by the younger generation and say, get up here, champion. Not that he wouldn't have beat the hell out of you. He was a fighter,
Yeah, he was a fighter. He was a bouncer, too. Yeah. I believe in Cincinnati.
Joyous Lake for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go up against him.
Gary, again, thank you so much for your kind words. Happy holidays to you and yours and everybody up here in the Woodstock community, and a prosperous 2018.
Well, thank you very much, and I invite everybody up into the area and come into our world and see what it's like, and maybe we can have that celebration in a couple of years.